done? What came over me? Who am I? It was wonderful. I loved every minute of it.
What if I told you that one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses carried a list, not of awards or dream roles, but of names? Names that haunted her career for decades. Names she swore she would never forget. For over half a century, Sally Field was the symbol of warmth, honesty, and heart. She was the woman who could make the world cry with a single line, the actress who turned vulnerability into power. But behind that gentle smile was a story the public never saw, one filled with heartbreak, betrayal, and battles she was never supposed to talk about. Throughout her career, Sally was praised for her talent and grace. Yet behind the applause, she was quietly enduring pain caused by the very people who were supposed to be her peers, her partners, and sometimes even her lovers. She was admired by millions but disrespected by a few, and those few changed her forever. Now, at 78 years old, Sally Field has nothing left to hide. She's finally breaking her silence, revealing the 6 actors who hurt her the most. The ones whose egos, cruelty, or manipulation left scars deeper than any critic's words ever could. These aren't simple disagreements or Hollywood gossip. These are real stories, moments that shaped her life, tested her strength, and forced her to see the industry she once loved in a darker light. Because even America's sweetheart has limits. And when she finally speaks, the truth doesn't just sting. It shatters illusions. You might think you know Hollywood, but after hearing Sally Field's truth, you'll realize fame can hide the cruelest secrets of all. Before Hollywood's cameras captured their chemistry, Sally Field truly believed she had found something rare with Burt Reynolds. Together, they looked like a dream, the playful power couple who ruled the late 1970s. Their charm lit up talk shows, their smiles filled magazine covers, and their on-screen energy in Smokey and the Bandit made audiences believe they were soulmates. To the world, they were the definition of love in motion. But when the lights went off, the story changed. Behind closed doors, Sally discovered that the man the world adored could also be controlling, demanding, and deeply insecure. Burt had built his career on confidence and swagger, yet that same charisma often turned into dominance. He would interrupt her mid-sentence, criticize her decisions, and diminish her achievements, as if keeping her small somehow made him larger. In interviews, he offered backhanded compliments, praising her beauty one moment, then joking about her seriousness the next. At home, those jokes became cutting remarks, leaving her to wonder whether the affection he showed in public was ever real. In her memoir, In Pieces, Sally revealed the side of Burt few had ever seen. He wasn't just her partner, he was the person who made her feel invisible. She described moments when he'd decide who she could speak to, what roles she should take, even how she should behave during interviews. When she resisted, he'd withdraw affection, using silence as punishment. To outsiders, he was charming and protective. To Sally, he was unpredictable, shifting from loving to distant without warning. "I wanted to love him," she once admitted. "I did love him, but he hurt me." Those words carried the weight of years spent walking on emotional glass, trying to hold together a relationship that chipped away at her confidence. Even at the height of her fame, when the world saw her as strong and radiant, she felt small beside him. Eventually, she realized that what she mistook for passion was really control. The man who made her laugh on set was the same man who made her doubt her worth off it. To millions, Burt Reynolds was a hero, the Bandit. But to Sally Field, he was heartbreak in disguise. And tragically, he was only the beginning. After the heartbreak of Burt Reynolds, Sally Field approached her next project with renewed hope. Back Roads seemed like the perfect opportunity. A gritty, character-driven film that would allow her to dive deep into the kind of emotional storytelling she loved most. She was ready to work, to create, and to heal through her craft. But instead of connection, she was met with cold indifference. Her co-star, Tommy Lee Jones, had already built a reputation in Hollywood for his seriousness and sharp intellect. On set, however, that intensity took on a different form. Sally described him as distant and dismissive, not just in character, but in spirit. He barely acknowledged her presence during rehearsals, avoided conversation, and refused to engage in even the simplest small talk that often helps actors build trust. To Sally, it felt like acting beside a wall. Every attempt she made to break the ice, a question, a laugh, a shared observation, was met with silence. He'd hit his marks, deliver his lines with precision, and leave the set without another word. For an actress who thrived on emotional exchange, this wasn't just challenging, it was disorienting. She once said that acting opposite Tommy Lee Jones felt like playing alone. The film required vulnerability, two broken characters learning to love and survive together. But that vulnerability only came from one side. Tommy's refusal to connect drained her energy and made every scene feel heavier than it should have been. Critics later blamed the movie's lack of chemistry for its lukewarm reception. What they didn't know was that the real chill wasn't on screen. It was in the moments between takes. Sally later revealed that she tried everything to make the experience work. She approached him with professionalism, kindness, even humor, but nothing broke through his icy distance. It wasn't just a clash of personalities, it was a clash of humanity. By the end of filming, she was emotionally exhausted. What should have been a chance to rediscover her confidence became another reminder that respect isn't guaranteed, not even for someone as accomplished as her. She never worked with Tommy Lee Jones again. And though she never publicly lashed out, the quiet disappointment in her voice whenever his name came up said enough. That experience taught her something painful, but necessary. Not every difficult man in Hollywood shows his cruelty with words. Some do it with silence, but the next man on her list wasn't silent at all. In fact, he turned every set into chaos and left her questioning whether genius and madness were sometimes the same thing. By the time Sally Field began working with Robert Blake on Say Goodbye, Maggie Cole, she had learned to handle difficult personalities. Or at least, she thought she had. Hollywood was full of intense egos, and Sally prided herself on staying calm and professional no matter what. But Robert Blake was different. He wasn't just unpredictable, he was volatile. From the first day on set, it was clear that Blake operated by his own rules. He was known for his method acting, the kind that blurred the line between performance and reality. But to Sally, there was nothing artistic about what he brought to set. He'd change lines without warning, go completely off script during crucial scenes, and throw emotional curveballs that left everyone, cast and crew, scrambling to keep up. What some might call creativity, Sally saw as chaos. She tried to stay composed, adjusting her performance to his unpredictable outbursts, but it became impossible to find rhythm or trust. Every scene felt like a test she didn't sign up for. Blake would explode in anger 1 minute, then act like nothing had happened the next. Crew members whispered about his temper, how quickly he could turn from charming to cruel. One moment, he'd be quiet, focused, and professional. The next, he'd shout at a lighting technician or storm off, set over a minor disagreement. Sally found herself not just acting in a drama, but living in one. And even as the leading actress, she was often forced to play peacekeeper, calming him down, diffusing tension, and trying to keep the production from collapsing. But no one could fix what was already broken. The constant tension poisoned the creative energy on set, and before long, the film itself fell apart. Say Goodbye, Maggie Cole was shelved before it ever made it to air, lost to the chaos that consumed it. For Sally, the experience wasn't just a professional disappointment, it was deeply personal. She later said that Blake reminded her of the kind of man who tries to make everyone else small just to feel big. Those words carried years of exhaustion, not just from that set, but from a career surrounded by men who mistook dominance for artistry. After that project, she made herself a promise. Never again would she mistake instability for passion or tolerate genius that came at the cost of her peace. Because sometimes the greatest danger on a film set isn't the story being told, it's the person telling it. And if Robert Blake tested her patience, the next name on her list would test her strength. Because this time, the feud didn't start on set. It started in the spotlight. When Sally Field signed on to Steel Magnolias, she expected a beautiful experience, a story about sisterhood, resilience, and love. The script was powerful, the cast legendary, and Sally approached the role with her usual warmth and empathy. But the atmosphere on set was far from the touching bond audiences would one day see on screen. Standing across from Shirley MacLaine, Sally quickly realized that the story of sisterhood didn't extend beyond the cameras. Shirley was an icon in her own right, a powerhouse performer with decades of acclaim and an Oscar already under her belt. But rather than collaboration, what Sally found was competition. Every day felt like a quiet power struggle, a battle between humility and ego. While Sally focused on emotional truth, connecting deeply to her role as Malin, a grieving mother, Shirley treated the project like a chessboard. Every scene was a move to dominate. Crew members whispered about her need to control the spotlight, how she would interrupt takes, add sarcastic ad-libs, and shift the tone of a moment just to draw attention back to herself. One emotional scene, Sally later recalled, took 17 takes. Not because she couldn't get it right, but because Shirley refused to play it straight. She injected humor and side comments into moments that weren't meant to be funny, throwing off the raw rhythm Sally worked so hard to maintain. For a film built on emotion, those interruptions cut deep. Behind the scenes, Sally stayed professional. She smiled, hit her marks, and kept her composure, even as the tension became impossible to ignore. But inside, she was drained. It wasn't just creative friction, it was exhaustion from constantly having to defend the integrity of the story against someone who seemed more interested in control than connection. Years later, Sally would only allude to the feud in interviews, speaking carefully but firmly. She said that Shirley brought a cloud of chaos wherever she went. It wasn't said with hatred, just truth. Sally didn't need to exaggerate. The exhaustion in her tone said everything. In the end, Steel Magnolias became a beloved classic. Audiences wept for Malin's pain and praised the ensemble's emotional depth, but few knew that the real tension, the real heartbreak, wasn't in the script. It was happening between takes. For Sally, that experience left a lasting mark. It reminded her that even in stories about unity and love, jealousy and ego could creep in and poison the air. But her next collaboration would go beyond ego. It wouldn't just bruise her confidence, it would shatter her trust completely. Because the next man she worked with wasn't just difficult, he was manipulative, and he knew exactly how to make her doubt herself. After years of tension-filled sets and quiet rivalries, Sally Field was eager for something lighthearted. When she joined Kiss Me Goodbye, she thought it would be exactly that, a romantic comedy with charm, humor, and an easy atmosphere. After all the emotional weight of her past projects, this film felt like a breath of fresh air. But that relief didn't last long. The moment she met her co-star, James Woods, she sensed something different. Woods had a sharp mind, a commanding presence, and an intensity that seemed to hang in every room he entered. At first, she admired his intellect, but soon she realized he used it not to connect, but to control. From the first rehearsal, his behavior unsettled her. He constantly dissected lines, rewrote dialogue on the spot, and challenged the director's choices. What was supposed to be collaboration became psychological warfare. Every interaction turned into a debate, every scene into a battle of wills. And it wasn't creative tension, it was domination disguised as intelligence. Sally, known for her openness and empathy, tried to adapt. She listened, responded, and attempted to find balance. But Woods' interruptions made it impossible to breathe. He'd correct her mid-scene, question her delivery in front of the crew, or make small, cutting remarks about her performance. To outsiders, it looked like playful banter. To Sally, it was humiliation. He had a way of making her doubt herself, not through outright cruelty, but through carefully chosen words that chipped at her confidence. "You're not giving enough," he'd say, or "You're holding back." Statements that sounded like direction, but felt like daggers. After years of proving herself as one of Hollywood's most respected actresses, she suddenly found herself second-guessing every decision. In interviews years later, she described Woods as intellectually intimidating. He wasn't interested in working together. He was interested in control. He wanted to be the smartest man in the room, even if it meant undermining everyone else. And on that set, Sally Field became his favorite target. The most painful moments, though, weren't the on-screen arguments. They were the quiet ones. Between takes, he'd lean in with subtle cutting comments meant to make her question her talent. Those remarks followed her home at night, echoing in her head long after filming ended. "It wasn't the role that wore me down," she said later. "It was constantly having to defend my worth." That line says everything. because by then, Sally wasn't just fighting bad behavior. She was fighting years of being dismissed, belittled, and diminished by men who feared her strength more than they admired her talent. But the experience with James Woods became a turning point. She walked away from Kiss Me Goodbye, not defeated, but transformed. It was the moment she decided she would never again allow anyone, especially a man hiding behind intellect and arrogance, to silence her voice. Still, even after everything she'd endured, she wasn't ready for what came next. The final name on her list wasn't a man she loved or even worked closely with, but one whose arrogance cut deeper than all the rest. Because when it came to Dustin Hoffman, the humiliation happened before the cameras ever started rolling. To the public, Dustin Hoffman was a legend, a perfectionist, a genius, and one of the most respected actors in Hollywood. But to Sally Field, he became a painful reminder that brilliance can sometimes hide cruelty. Their paths crossed in the early 1980s during a chemistry read for a film that never got made. For Sally, it was supposed to be an exciting opportunity. Instead, it turned into one of the most humiliating experiences of her career. From the moment she walked in, Hoffman dominated the room. He cracked jokes with producers, mocked the script, and when Sally began her lines, he cut her off again and again. He questioned her choices, corrected her delivery, and turned what should have been collaboration into public embarrassment. She later described it as auditioning for a man who'd already decided I wasn't enough. The worst part came later, when she learned from a mutual contact that Hoffman had bragged about the encounter, saying the chemistry wasn't there, and that he'd made sure of it. It wasn't about talent, it was about ego. For Sally, the experience wasn't just demeaning, it was clarifying. She realized that some men in Hollywood didn't fear failure, they feared women who couldn't be controlled. From that moment, she made herself a promise. Never again would she allow arrogance to silence her. And this time, she kept that promise. Because Sally Field didn't just endure Hollywood, she conquered it. She turned every insult into armor and every betrayal into power. Sally Field's story isn't just about Hollywood, it's about survival. It's about a woman who spent decades smiling for cameras while quietly carrying the weight of betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreak. She loved deeply, worked relentlessly, and gave the world pieces of her soul through every role she played. But behind every applause was a lesson, one she paid for with silence. In the end, Sally didn't just prove herself through awards or acclaim. She proved it by outlasting every person who tried to break her. The controlling lovers, the cold co-stars, the egos that tried to dim her light, all of them faded. But she didn't. She kept rising, decade after decade, until the truth no longer hurt. It healed. Because strength doesn't always come from fighting back. Sometimes it comes from knowing when to walk away and still win. Today, at 78, Sally Field doesn't owe Hollywood a thing. Her legacy isn't the pain she endured. It's the grace with which she endured it. And that's what makes her story timeless. So, what do you think? Did Sally do the right thing by finally speaking her truth after all these years? Or should some secrets stay buried in old Hollywood? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the untold side of Hollywood, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because there are more stories coming that will change how you see the stars you thought you knew.